So something I get asked all of the time is actually, where do I get my design inspiration from? And so I thought, let's talk about that today whilst I do a little bit of my Monday mending. Welcome back, my lovely ladies and gents. Thank you very much for tuning in today. If we haven't yet met yet, welcome. My name is Evelyn Wood and I'm a dressmaker. And one thing I get asked a lot is, where do I get my design inspiration from? This was recently just asked and I thought it'd come top of mind. So I thought, let's talk about it. And I am in fact doing a little bit of my Monday mending because there is so much hand stitching here to do. So two birds with one stone, right? Now I will talk about the design inspiration as it pertains to more in line with refashioning and vintage style, because obviously that's what I do. So I can assume that's what it's more aimed at. So what I assume when you sort of ask the question of where the design inspiration comes from, I think about it in terms of, I assume that the rest of the question is then, how do you get inspired? Where do you find your ideas? And how do you translate, like how do they actually become ideas that they then turn into garments and refashions, right? I assume that's the full question there. Well, it's quite easy. I think most of my inspiration for any of the designs really comes from two things. It's from research and from practice. Let me start with research. So research really comes for me, many different forms, be it from physical books, from online, and through actual extant, like garments that exist. But there are a few main things that I can narrow it down to what I do research. And the first one is fashion history. I cannot stress enough how important it has been to actually study and research fashion history, to look back and see what they used to wear and look at the different decades and just study the silhouettes and the shapes and the colors and the cuts and the fit, and really study the look of all of the garments from the different time periods that you're interested in, and really study it until you can really start to see a garment and sort of know when it's from exactly, or not exactly, but the rough, the decade that it's from. When you can start identifying those things, you know that you're really researching the eras and the decades, and then you know what you're interested in. And then of course it gets so ingrained in your mind what those styles look like and what the silhouettes and the shapes actually are from those decades that you're trying to probably, replicate. And then of course you can look at actual extant garments. So actual vintage garments that exist, really study them and research them and check them out. So sometimes I get ideas from seeing an actual garment and it gives you an idea for something else that you could do, or how they've done it inspires you to be able to see what you can do for your own garments as well. So definitely look at actual vintage garments. You can get a lot of construction inspiration from, I think, looking at actual garments, because you get to see inside of them and how they're made, which is always the fun part. And then the other research that I would say, the other category, is what are other people doing? So get inspired by other people. Follow, on like Instagram is a great one, and here on YouTube, of course, lots of people are doing different refashioning and vintage sewing, and look at what they're doing to be inspired by. So maybe they have been researched and be inspired by something else. There's no reason that you can't be inspired by what they've been inspired by from something. I'm constantly always getting inspired by, there are so many wonderful people out there doing wonderful things in sewing and vintage fashion, refashioning, that it always gives you, it sparks an idea in you that, you can do it in your own way, or it allows you to then translate that same thing into something else that's more your style, whatever you're doing. Definitely look at what other people are doing to be inspired by, because I get constantly inspired by the wonderful creative things that you guys all do out there. So they're kind of the main three sort of categories of design inspiration, I would say, come from researching. It is very, very key into to be inspired by anything. That's how the ideas are really sparked in me, is by researching, by looking at things, because then it comes into the next point is practice. So really being able to get design inspiration comes from practicing, because once you get those ideas, it's only from practicing those ideas that you can really be able to translate that into an actual garment. So for instance, it's only through knowing garment construction, like the more and the more that you get to know and understand how garments are constructed, pulling them apart, putting them back together, you then, every time you do that, you'll think of some other way that you could have done it for next time, to really be able to get ideas flowing again. It's all about those ideas flowing, that you'll get more inspiration for next time that you do, and you'll see those through your research. You'll then see things and you'll start to connect the dots, because you know how garments go together and you've pulled them apart and put them back together through practicing all the time. That's how you'll be able to then have those ideas and actually then translate and be able to physically do that into a garment. So for me, that's how they kind of go together. It starts with researching and being inspired by ideas and seeing those designs, but it's not until with all the practice and understanding of garments, that's when you actually can connect just what you want to do to how are you going to do it. That's for me how the two come together, and then that's how you can actually create the garments. And of course, practice always comes every time you get better and better at doing this, every time you do it, of course, because like I said, every time you do it, you think of something else and it just flows to you. The more that you do it, you'll be inspired to see what you can do next time, and different design ideas again and again and again. At least that is how it works for me most of the time. I would really love to hear if this is true for you as well, if you sort of think that this is how your design ideas come together, or please let me know below. If you have something else that you would like to share with me and everybody else, so always read those comments. Tell me below how your design ideas get translated as well. Because I love to be inspired by your ideas, as I said, so please, I always look forward to reading them. And like this video if you liked it. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing so that you can see all of my future videos, and let me know how you like talking about this topic as well. Thank you so very much for watching, and this Monday mending one you'll see soon enough. And then, well, until next time, bye. Oh, hi Esme. Yeah. What if I told you she was there the whole time? Oh no, don't leave.